one of my guys will kind of pick him up and throw him over a table or hit him really hard. And so people are like, oh shit, this is real, you know. We don't give them one good day, we give them the opportunity to have one great life. I want to hear more of your story. We're going to bring you out. We're going to bring you out to speak November 21st at the Eccles Theater. It's about choosing hard things before hard things choose you. And so I'm just going to expose my heart and open up my authenticity and tell people what that was really like.
Welcome back to Ignition Point. I'm Debbie Hart.
Sean Finnegan.
Today we have a special guest, Jason Van Camp.
You got it, Jason Van Camp. Thanks for having me,
Jason
guys.
Van Camp, look at him. He's a human action figure, this guy.
Not really.
But
Special
it's an absolute
Forces,
honor.
Green Beret.
Yeah, one of the most decorated
West
Green
Point
Berets in
Academy.
history.
Yeah, you got it.
CEO of Warrior Rising. Tell us about that. So you've taken your extreme military background and you've turned it into a program for men?
Well, it's for veterans.
Veterans specifically.
Veterans and their immediate family members. So this men and women, you know, and I love my community, the veteran community, the military community, and I'm a military veteran myself. You know, I served in the special forces until I retired, and I have a special place in my heart for these individuals, and I can speak their language, like I said, and you know, they came to me, they were asking me for help, and I said, well, what do you guys want to do? And they said, well, there's charities out there that take us hunting and fishing and build homes for us. And I said, you know, that's great. And I said, well, it's not that great because we want to do something. We don't want something to be handed to us, you know. We go on these hunting and fishing trips. We have one good day. We come back home. Nothing's changed for us. We have a home built for us. I wanted to build the home for myself. I didn't want it given to me. I wanted someone to help me so I could do it myself. And so I said, well, what do you guys want to do? And they said, well, Jason, we want to find our purpose again. How did you find your purpose? And I said, well, guys, when I left the military, I got into business. I started several businesses, and I found my purpose through being creative and building something special and adding value for my clients and bringing you guys back out on the team to be my employees and making money for you guys and for the company. And I said, that's my purpose now. And my guys all said, we want to do the same thing. We want to start businesses. So that was the catalyst for Warrior Rising, and that's what we do. We help veterans and their immediate family members start or accelerate their own businesses. So we don't give them one good day, we give them the opportunity to have one great life.
That's beautiful, and there's probably a huge need for that. After serving in the military, so you're finding that a lot of people had a hard time finding that sense of purpose and direction, so that's what your program supports them with.
Yeah, it's not about being distracted because a lot of folks come back with mental health issues, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And they were a part of something bigger than them, something really special. They were really doing something with their lives. They were saving people, you know.
Yeah.
They were
Heroes.
They were heroes, you know, and heroes don't get a vote. And now they're looking for something else, something new. They want to acclimate back to the civilian world. They want to know what that's like, and they're way behind. You know, all of their friends that didn't join the military, they're well into their careers. They've started their own businesses. They're already making millions of dollars. And now these guys are coming back in their mid to late 30s, some of them late 40s, and they're starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
Also the author of Deliberate Discomfort. Incredible book.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Tell us about the message of that book.
Well, the book is about my life and my experiences. After I just earned my Green Beret and reported to my unit for the first time, and I meet my boss, and my boss is like, Jason, we're going to combat. In a few weeks, you're going to be in charge of a team. You're going to be at the tip of the spear. In order for you to not only, you know, survive, but thrive, these are the things I need you to learn. And I go to guys on my team, people in the unit, and I ask them, hey, how are you successful, not just in your profession, but in life? And they share their experiences with me, and I break that down into relatable and digestible action items through a scientific theory, and then for practical application as well. And so that's what the book is about. It's about choosing hard things before hard things choose you. And I call that the deliberate discomfort mindset. And that's that's our curriculum at my company, Mission 60. That's what we teach. And it's just a blast because it's authentic, it's true, and it helps people help themselves.
That is a powerful message. And you're in the middle of writing another book, right?
Yeah, I'm fired up about it. You got to find purpose in life. And for me, I find a lot of excitement and purpose through writing, you know. And so I'm writing my second book right now, and it's called Those Who Face death, and it's about my experiences in combat as a leader with the Kurdish Peshmerga forces. And, we had a really rough deployment when I was in the Special Forces in 2006. And, half my team got Purple Hearts. One of them died, and it was really rough experience. So I'm just going to expose my heart and open up my authenticity and tell people what that was really like.
So when can we expect that to be coming out?
Don't rush me now.
No pressure.
Ready when I'm ready.
Okay, we won't publish a
Yeah.
deadline here.
Yeah.
We want it to flow. We want it to be
That-
authentic and genuine, just like everything else that you
Yeah.
do. So let's go back to Jason's
Well, it'll be next
early
year,
days.
so probably first quarter next year.
First quarter of
we'll
next year,
launch it.
generally speaking.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Jason's early days. How did you decide what was your ignition point when you decided to go into the military life?
Well, I wish I could tell you that it was my dream and my goal and it's something I've always wanted to do. I sort of haphazardly fell into it. I grew up in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C. in the 80s, it's a very patriotic area. Most of the parents of your friends are in the military or work for the government. So, show me your friends and I'll show you your future sort of thing. It's sort of normal, not so much here in Utah, but in Washington, D.C., sort of a normal life. And, like I said, in Washington, D.C. in the 1980s, there were two enemies that you knew of. One was the Russians. You knew the Russians were your enemy, and the second were the Dallas Cowboys. So
Amen to that.
And so for me, it was like, maybe the military could be something in my future. I'm very deeply patriotic. I love my country, and I never wanted to be someone who didn't carry the load when I could have, meaning someone else did the job that I could have done, but I didn't. I wanted to be a guy that was doing the work that was asked of me, and I felt like that was, my country was asking me to do something. So I did that. And, I played sports growing up. I was good at football. Got recruited to play football in college. Unfortunately, I wasn't quite big enough to play at a major university, and I went to West Point to play football. And while you're there, you realize going to West Point is not about football. It's a military school,
Yeah.
And so you learn how to be an officer. You learn how to be a better decision maker. And when you graduate, you get commissioned as a second lieutenant.
So tell us, the book, I've read the book, Deliberate Discomfort. Tell us about a specific experience you had, because I think what's brilliant about your book is you talk about real experiences you had getting into the military, knowing that you're going to combat, and then sharing that experience, and then you break down the leadership lessons you learned. So tell us about one of those moments, you talk about deliberately hard things. What was one of the hard things?
That's a great question. And it's relative. It depends. What's hard for you might not be hard for me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so, first to your point, the book is broken down in that fashion where there's a story. Hopefully it's an interesting story to most people. It's a true story. And then we have the science behind it, like the so what and the now what. And then we have a practical application, meaning as a business owner, these are the clients that we've worked with where we've implemented the theme in this chapter to their benefit. And a lot of our clients are from the National Football League or from Major League Baseball. And so it's interesting because a lot of the players there. I did it that way because a lot of the guys that I have on my team are Medal of Honor guys or Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Rangers, Marines, things like that. And when they went to go speak and share their stories, they would share a powerful story, and the clients would ask, well, how did you do that so I can use it in my life? And most of my guys would say, well, I don't know, I just relied on my training, or I don't know, I just did it. They didn't know how they did the things that they did. They just knew that they did them. And so I said, listen, we're missing out here. We can do a lot better. And I think that's what you find with a lot of these military companies is they've got these great stories. The stories only last a couple weeks until, you really have to implement the training here, the message that you're trying to teach. And so for me, you might say, make your bed first thing in the morning. I know Admiral Craven teaches that, I think to myself, okay, that might be hard for a lot of people. I had to make my bed every single morning for 4 years at West Point to an impossible standard, and it's just not hard for me
Bounce
anymore.
a quarter off the bed.
It's a habit,
Right.
I got to bounce a quarter off my bed.
Right.
Yeah. It's not hard for me to do that. Or someone might say, take a cold shower in the morning. Okay, well, I lived in Russia for 2 years for my mission or for my church, and every April they shut off the hot water. So you have to take a cold shower from
That was
April
every day then.
until October. You had to
Yeah.
take a
Every
cold
day.
shower. You had to, so you
That's
get
just
used to
what
it.
is,
Right.
yeah.
It becomes a habit. And so taking a cold shower isn't hard for me right now. But, you know, one of our good friends, James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, he lives down the street. You know, he did 50 Ironman races in 50 consecutive days in all 50 states, and then he did 100 of them in a row. And so if you were to ask him, hey, do an Ironman with me, he'd be like, okay, I'll just get out of bed and do it tomorrow.
Tuesday.
But
Yeah.
for me, if I was doing Ironman, Jason, I would say, you got to give me like 8
Yeah.
months to train for this
Same,
thing.
yeah.
I can't get out of bed and do
Yeah.
that like James can. That's hard for me.
Yeah.
And so back to your question about the book, you know, things that are hard, saying no to people. You know, when you're a leader, for me, that was hard, saying no to people. When you're a leader on the team, you want everyone to like you. You want to like establish a culture, and guys are asking you to do things, and they're giving you reasons to do things, and just simply saying no, like we can't do it that way. We're not going to do it
Yeah.
that way. And having that is hard. That's hard for me to do that. Something as simple as that, you know, like you can also say, hey, having the courage to do that might be harder for some people than it is to go into combat and run into, a field of bullets. You know what I mean? And so to each his own, you know, it's relative and it's,
And the invitation of the book
Subjective.
is deliberately do those things.
the message is find out what's hard for you because it's different for everybody. Deliberately choose to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind keynoting. I like to stand in front of people and talk. I don't mind doing that. That's not hard for me. That wouldn't be a deliberately uncomfortable thing for me to do. However, if it's hard for you to do it, that's exactly what I want you to do. You know, if you have a hard time getting out of bed at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's exactly
be
what I
me.
want
Yeah.
you to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you have a hard time eating correctly with nutrition, that's exactly what I want you to do. Because
Yeah.
you have to decide for yourself what it is that's hard and then do that. And I'm not talking about harming yourself, masochism, anything like that. I'm talking about doing things that you know you need to do, that you want to do, but you don't do it because you're lazy or you're weak,
Comfortable.
you're
Undisciplined,
comfortable,
Yeah.
you know?
Tell us about, so there's been some wild YouTube videos on some of the,
Okay.
yeah, where
hear
you know what I mean? There's like a
Yeah.
business event going on and
Yeah.
you're replicating almost a military kind of moment in those. Tell us about what the whole reason is and what's that all about.
Well, our first client ever was the New York Jets. And I was at BYU getting my MBA, and there was an opportunity to start a business and compete in a pitch competition. And I said, what should I do? I said, let me do something that I'm knowledgeable about, I'm passionate about, and take my military training and leadership and combine that with like sports and how does that work? Maybe I can do something there. And so I started cold calling NFL teams, and I found some phone numbers on Google, and
Jeez.
alphabetically one at a time. I started calling Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, Carolina Panthers, all the way down. And as you can imagine, the first few calls, I had no idea what I was doing, who I was asking for. And every call I learned something. Oh, this is the person I need to talk to. Okay, this is what they're looking for. Okay. And I finally got to the New York Jets. And I had a pretty good, foundation at that point. And I asked for the director of player engagement, and the guy's name was Dave Zott. And I was like, oh, I've heard of Dave Zott. I've actually followed his career for some reason. He's an offensive lineman. And so he picked up the phone, and I was like, oh, Dave, I'm a big fan. You played for the Kansas City Chiefs. You had this many, like I started talking, and he loved it. He was like, oh,
Yeah.
they're a fan, And so he's like, Jason, I hear what you're saying with coming in to provide leadership for the guys and all that. But listen, we're not going to hire you. But I'll tell you what, I like you. You can come in and pitch to the team just for practice. You have to pay for your flight and your hotel and everything, but let you come in and give you a tour and so forth. And so I was like, thanks, Dave, we'll take it. And so I went to my guys that we were creating this business with, and they're both Green Berets. And I said, hey, we got this opportunity. We're going to nail it. And they were like, well, he already said no. He already said we can't. We're not going to get the contract. I said, yeah, we're going to get that contract. And so we were brainstorming like what we could do differently. And what we came up with was an opportunity to do a hostage takedown scenario where,
Wow.
and we said, listen, we
Right.
got nothing to lose. We were already told no.
Yeah.
So I walked into the conference room, and the head coach at the time of the Jets was Rex Ryan, and he had all his
Yeah.
coaches and people in the room. And I started talking, and within about a minute of me introducing myself, we had planned for the lights to go out and 2 of my guys that were dressed as terrorists to come in and throw a flashbang in the room.
Oh, dang.
And zip tie.
What could go wrong? Yeah.
Put a bag over everybody's head, zip tie
Right.
everybody.
Right.
So that's what they did.
Yeah.
And it could have gone one of 2 ways. One, get the F out of this
Right.
office,
Yeah.
calling the police.
Yeah.
Which at that point would have just been a hilarious story
Right.
that we could have told
Yeah.
for the rest of our lives.
Right.
Or it could have been, which is what exactly happened. Rex Ryan picked him up, pulled the bag off his head, and he was like, "That was awesome." And he was excited. And we finished the pitch. And after the pitch was over, he was like, "Jason, we know that this is your first ever pitch. You never had a client before. But congratulations, your first client is the New York Jets."
Dang.
And he walked out of the room.
Beautiful.
And so we're like, hey, that works. And so we've tried doing the hostage takedown scenario with our clients, and they love it. And the decision makers like to see how their employees react to this sort of thing, because it happens.
Yeah.
Active shooter situations happen
Right.
all the time. So we train folks on self-awareness, situational awareness, and then social awareness. So how do I react in this scenario? What do I do? Do I freeze up? Do I try to run? Do I try to fight? What do the people next to me do? What happened?
Shocks the system, right?
Yeah.
How many people entered the room? How many
Yeah.
bad guys were? What kind of weapons did they have? What did they say? Did they drop anything? Were there any clues? Where did they enter? Where did they exit? Who did they kidnap?
Right.
All these different things. And so after the scenario is over, we talk about all this stuff, and it kind of blows people's minds how little they actually are aware of. And then we do other things too. People have elevated what they ask for to torture. So people like to torture us, and and we want to be waterboarded.
And then you have some of your other military guys sometimes as plants, so you can go rough them up in front of everyone, so it even becomes more real.
Yeah, so I usually plan 1 or 2 guys in the audience for the hostage takedown scenario, and they'll stand up, and one of my guys will kind of pick them up and throw them over a table or hit them really hard, and so people are like, "Oh shit, this is real,"
Right.
And and that works out because you never know.
He's like, "I'm in."
It's really good YouTube. I mean, it's
good
really,
YouTube stuff.
Aaron, that's good YouTube right there.
It's fun, and very rarely, but it does happen where people try to fight, and then it isn't just about that's fun, and you learn a lot about that. But we'll do some keynote, we'll speak to the team, we'll go through some workshops, we'll do some team bonding activities, we'll have a vulnerability panel where we kind of open up and expose our hearts to what's really going on in your life, and it's just powerful stuff, and we're really happy about that.
You're doing incredible work.
Yeah, that's so powerful and so life-changing.
It's a lot of
for
fun.
So many people.
It's a lot of fun.
The gala last
You
year.
grow that way. There's
What's
no
that?
comfort in the growth zone. There's
Yeah.
no growth in the comfort zone,
Right.
right? There's-
Who really has experienced that? Unless
Yeah.
you've been in special operations, you haven't really done any of that stuff. And so when you do it for the first time, it's like,
It's
I'm
intense.
giving you a special experience.
It stretches you. That's how you grow.
There you go.
Yeah, you've made an amazing impact on so many people, and especially with the Aware Rising. Like I saw, some get up and talk at your gala. It was there was a couple thousand people there. It was a packed house. You had David Goggins come to this one.
Yeah.
The next one's coming up November. Definitely get behind what Jason's doing
Yeah.
and support the cause,
you.
because you're making a
thank
huge
you.
impact.
You personally served our country. You're already a hero, but then you just took that and brought those trainings and those teachings out exponentially. So we just want to thank you for being on the show, sharing your story, and for making the impact that you do in this world. It's an honor to meet you.
It's my honor. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it. Sean, you're a good friend. You're a good dude. If there's anything I can do to help you out, man, I got you. And Deb, great to meet you. You're so fantastic. I want to hear more of your story. We're going to bring you out. We're going to bring you out to speak November 21st at the Eccles Theater.
Yeah.
And we're excited about that.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Cool.
If any of you watching today have any doubts that your current CPA is not helping you take 100% advantage of the deductions you deserve and helping you stay compliant with the IRS, then don't hesitate to get involved with TaxHive today. You won't be disappointed.